My eldest sister took away all my birthday hairpins, and my fiancé said I was too narrow-minded. Later, when she fell into the pond, I gave him to her too. My elder brother was investigating a case out of town and sent a letter home. Yeongju is famous for its velvet flower hairpins. What styles do Shishu and she prefer? My elder sister replied, Shishu likes pink the most. So on the day of my birthday banquet, my brother had someone deliver 2 gilded velvet flower hairpins. One was pink. The other was also pink. My elder sister picked out the peony hairpin at first glance, adoring it as she tucked it into her temple hair. My fiancé Shinyanji laughed at her. This flower is too flashy wearing it on you. When Shishu is like a cow chewing a peony, I think you'd better choose the peach blossom one. My elder sister, who had always been strong-willed, got so angry her eyes re-inked, forcing young Master Shin to hurriedly apologize in the end. Both hairpins went to my elder sister. Later, Shiny Yenji saw me hiding and crying. He sighed helplessly. You're unparalleled in beauty, but your heart is truly too sensitive and narrow-minded. After we marry, Shio will still be my elder sister. It's inevitable that we'll interact, but you can't even tolerate a single hairpin. He spoke earnestly. If you never change, what will become of you in the future? I took his words to heart from then on. I never competed again. So when my elder sister accidentally fell into the lotus pond during the palace flower viewing banquet, I instinctively pushed Shiniji. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and carry sister up. 01. The March Flower Festival banquet was originally the day for eligible noble ladies and young gentlemen in the capital to size each other up. But rumors had it that the third prince was selecting a consort, so all the noble ladies were hoping to shine at the banquet among them. My elder sister was the most unique. She always found flower viewing banquets pretentious. So today she deliberately downplayed her looks, wearing a simple dress, plain makeup, and a rustic hairpin only a lilac peach blossom hairpin adorned her bun unexpectedly. This made her stand out all the more among the crowd of jade and pearls. Aunt Shu, the attendant by the Empress's side, stood to one side, her gaze lingering between my elder sister and me for a long time before she nodded approvingly. The young lady in green has excellent features, dignified and well-mannered. The young lady with the peach blossom hairpin, though plainly dressed, has an extraordinary aura, equally pleasing, Aunt Shu said with a smile. May I ask which family you two young ladies belong to? And if you are betrothed? I froze, clutching my handkerchief nervously for a moment. I didn't know how to answer logically. As a noble lady already betrothed, I shouldn't have been attending the floating cup game at the flower banquet alone. But my elder sister was too dazzling today. The folded flowers the noble gentleman gave her had piled into a small mountain. When that white-robed, black-haired young gentleman handed her a flower, she turned to Shin Yenji and raised an eyebrow. What did I tell you? A pretty face isn't everything, even without dressing up. I've received more flowers than your dough-faced fiancé. You lost the bet. Hurry up and call me auntie. Shiniji wasn't backing down. Don't flatter yourself. Everyone in the capital knows she's the fiancé of the Marquis' heir. Otherwise, do you think a shrew like you could beat my Z? My elder sister raised her hand to hit him, but he effortlessly caught her wrist. The two of them bickered back and forth. I tried several times to intervene, but they were too caught up in their argument to pay me any attention. By the time the flower branch floated down the stream to me, I realized they had already wandered off, leaving me alone where I stood. Aunt Shu waited with a smile for our answer. I suddenly spotted Shin Yenji walking over. Relieved, I was about to speak, but Shiny Yenji spoke first. Please wait. Aunt Shu, the young lady on the left is Wen Shishu, the eldest daughter of the Wen family. She is already betrothed to me. 02 I stood frozen in place. Shiniji didn't look at me. Instead, my elder sister was the first to react, straightening her back. Yes, I've always been too free-spirited. I wouldn't want to be confined to the palace following all those rules. So, my family arranged a betrothal for me early on. I'm afraid I'm not fit to be the third prince's consort. As soon as she said this, a wave of suppressed gasps rippled through the crowd. My elder sister had been lost as a child and only recently found. Raised outside the household, she had grown up willful and unrestrained, often saying shocking things. She was nothing like us noble ladies who followed the rules. Sure enough, Shin Yenji's usually lazy, peach blossom-shaped eyes were fixed on my elder sister's face. His gaze startlingly bright, but Aunt Shu's expression soured. She withdrew her gaze from my elder sister and turned to me. "And you young lady again," before I could answer. Shinichi glanced at me and said with a casual smile, "Aunt Shu, she's also unavailable. This is the Wen family's second daughter. She looks dignified, but she's hopeless at cooking and needlework. Spoiled rotten since she was a child. Petted, always fighting with her sister over things. She's not fit to be the third prince's consort either." In an instant, everyone's eyes were on me. I instinctively wanted to argue, but my elder sister grabbed my arm. She leaned in and whispered, "I heard the third prince is gloomy and sullen. He was sent by the emperor to pray at a suburban temple years ago and only recently returned to the capital. If your reputation is ruined, you still have little Shun to marry you. But I absolutely cannot be chosen." "Good. Z, just help me this once, okay?" My elder sister was good at horseback riding, and right now she was probably too anxious. Her grip on my arm was painfully tight, almost crushing my bones. I trembled from the pain, unable to utter a single word as she spoke. My elder sister took the peach blossom hairpin from her bun and without explanation tucked it into my hair under the watchful eyes of the crowd. The helplessness in her voice was unmistakable, as if she truly cared. "Z, are you still angry with me about the hairpin? It's my fault. If you like this peach blossom hairpin, I'll give it to you, but please don't take out your anger on my fiancé anymore." "Okay." Aunt Shu's look at me shifted. Then whispers broke out among the noble ladies and gentlemen. "What's going on? I thought the one betrothed to the young heir was the second miss when you don't know. The Marquis betrothal was originally to the eldest daughter, but she was lost as a child, so it fell to the second daughter. Look at that second miss. When she's already so striking, yet she still covers her elder sister's hairpin. Clearly, she's a schemer. No wonder the young heir wants to switch." The gossip stabbed into my ears. Without mercy, I lowered my head in silence, the tears I had held back for so long, threatening to spill. Shinichi saw my expression and suddenly froze. He seemed about to say something, but someone else spoke first. "Your Highness, the prince, and Miss Wen, isn't that a bit inappropriate to say?" 03, the one who spoke was a man in white robes with ink-black hair, as gentle and refined as jade, as if he had stepped right out of a painting. I remembered him. He was the young master who had given the last folded flower to my elder sister. His appearance isn't like ordinary people, but his dress and accessories are far too plain. He's probably a poor scholar who got in through connections, though I wouldn't look down on him. My brother and mother would never want me to accept his flower. My elder sister, her face showing reluctance as she tossed that peony aside. She moved too fast, so I didn't have time to tell her. Actually, I had accidentally seen that the young master was just delivering the flower on behalf of his friend. Perhaps the true owner of the peony was also from a noble family. My elder sister recognized him, her beautiful eyes glaring back without backing down. "Young master, if you're resentful because I threw away your folded flower and deliberately embarrassed me in public." But the young master didn't look at my elder sister. Instead, he nodded at Aunt Shu. "At today's flower viewing banquet, 100 blooms are in full display. Yet the second miss wears a green dress with hairpins and dangling ornaments all in green and blue. And even her lip balm is the unfashionable light sandalwood among noble ladies. It seems the second miss doesn't like pink." His gentle gaze fell on me. A young lady who doesn't like pink. How could she fight with her elder sister over a peach blossom hairpin? I suddenly froze. Shiny Yenji's movements paused. He seemed to instinctively want to look at me, but he held back his gaze when he spoke again. His voice was much lower. "Young master, what do you mean by this?" Only then did the young master's gaze sweep across him and my elder sister's faces. He was still smiling, but his voice was no longer as gentle as before. "I shall believe if someone is caught telling one lie. then every other word from that mouth cannot be trusted easily. What do you think, Your Highness? My elder sister's face suddenly changed. Silence lingered around for a long time. After a moment, Aunt Shu bent at the waist in a bow. The young master speaks with reason. That day, the flower viewing banquet ended early. A fine drizzle began to fall from the sky. My elder sister, having lost face at the banquet, stormed off into the rain in a huff. Shiny handed me the only umbrella, carefully instructing me to wait in place for the mansion's carriage. Then he turned and chased after my elder sister. I watched his back for a long time, only snapping back to reality when I was soaked through by the rain and the hazy drizzle. That young master surnamed Xiao softly called out to me. He held a wide bamboo umbrella, and he took me in under its shelter as well. I lowered my head and saw between his slender wrist and fingers a beautifully blooming narcissus flower being offered to me. Miss Shi, the young master in wind-clear, moonbright white robes, had ears that were unmistakably red. My name is Xiao Rangu. I only returned to the capital a few days ago. The folded flower your elder sister received at the banquet was a gift I delivered on behalf of a childhood friend who's not good with words. The flower branch was carved with his name. But this is my true heart. Would you be willing to accept it? For some reason, looking at his face, my heart suddenly stirred when I returned to the mansion. I was met with a slap from my elder brother. Kneel down 04. Your elder sister was soaked in the rain all the way back and she came down with a fever as soon as she got home. The doctor said she caught a chill and was emotionally distressed, which is why the fever won't stop. She only fell asleep after taking the medicine. My elder brother's gaze was heavy, and when he looked at me, the disappointment was impossible to hide. I entrusted you and Xin Yanji to take care of your elder sister. Is this how you do it? My mother stood by, watching, her eyes seemingly filled with reluctance. But when her eyes met mine, she turned her face away, red-rimmed. Your Highness, the prince has already told us about the flower viewing banquet. They were impulsive today. Sure, but how could you help an outsider against your own elder sister? In the past, I would always apologize at times like this. But today, for some reason, I didn't want to say anything. My elder brother stared at me for a long time, then let out a scornful laugh. You've always been jealous since you were little. Shio was lost for years and suffered who knows how much out there. Now that she's finally come home, yet all you do is compete and stir up trouble, showing no sisterly affection at all. It's clear your nature is stubborn and rotten. By the end, my elder brother's voice had turned completely cold. Kneel here. Kneel until you figured things out. I knelt in the front courtyard for a long time, so long that the sky darkened, the rain grew heavier, and the blue bricks made my legs go numb. The arm my elder sister had grabbed during the day acted with a cold piercing pain for some reason. I suddenly thought of young master's umbrella 05. When I first started remembering things, my elder sister had already been lost. My mother was heartbroken and fell gravely ill. The mansion forbade anyone from mentioning my elder sister's name, so before my elder sister returned to the mansion, I didn't know I had an older sister. Nor did I know that Xin Yanji wasn't originally my fiancé. All I knew was that I didn't like pink, but my mother always said I did, ordering the maids to burn all my dresses that weren't pink when I asked. My father and elder brother. My father would frown and sigh, while my elder brother's eyes would rean, telling me not to hurt my mother's feelings. I didn't think much of it. I just went along obediently for years later. I found out that it was my elder sister who liked pink when she was little. My elder sister returned home 3 years ago. My family was overjoyed, crowding around her with endless care and affection, making up for all the years of neglect they had stored up over a decade. I was genuinely happy too. But after that, everything in the house was always chosen by my elder sister first. Whatever was left came to me when my elder sister and I got sick at the same time. My mother and elder brother always went to see her first when the palace sent 2 baskets of lychees. My elder sister said she'd never seen them before, so my elder brother had them all sent to her courtyard that very night when I found out. I felt a little wronged and said I'd never seen latex either, but my elder brother suddenly flew into a rage. Your sister was out there for so many years. Can't you just let her have this one time? I think you're getting way out of hand. Does every good thing in this house have to belong to you? Get to the ancestral hall and kneel." I was completely stunned. I knelt all night until I lost consciousness when I woke up alone in my room. The nanny said the family had gone out for a spring outing. I suddenly felt a hollow ache in my heart. Later, as my birthday approached, my elder brother wrote a letter asking what color hairpins my elder sister and I wanted. My elder sister replied with pink. I replied with green. But on the day of my birthday banquet, my elder brother sent someone with 2 pink hairpins. Disappointed, I wanted to go find Shiny Yenji. I happened to run into him, his eyes red from my elder sister's anger. For the first time, the proud Prince Sean was flustered, repeatedly apologizing and begging for mercy. In the end, he finally won my elder sister's favor. After that, Shinichi said it was better to just give both hairpins to my elder sister. Perhaps it was because her older sister pinched his earlobe a little too hard. Shinichi's ears and cheeks flushed a vivid red. I watched him for a long time. Silently, I nodded 06 on the day of the flower viewing banquet. My older sister initially refused to go. It was our mother who blocked her at the courtyard gate early in the morning. "You've been away from the manor since childhood, and now you're over 10 years old without a marriage arrangement. Soon your younger sister will marry before you. Do you know what the capital says about you?" My older sister looked defiant and didn't respond, but mother suddenly shifted tone. "Speaking of which, if you hadn't gone missing as a child, the engagement with the Marquis' estate wouldn't have fallen to your sister. Mother remembers your bond with the young heir was quite extraordinary back then." My older sister froze the next moment as if panicked. Her voice shot up sharply. "Phut, mother, what nonsense is this? I was only 4 when I got lost. I've long forgotten any bond with him. Besides, Shinichi loafs around all day, utterly insufferable. I wouldn't want him." Shiny Yenji, halfway into the front courtyard, overheard perfectly for a moment. He ignored everyone else, his peach blossom eyes lazy and infuriating as he shot back at my sister. Well, when show? Spare me the delusions. Do you think I'd fancy you?" Then he winked at me. "My Z is sweet and obedient, always going along with me. How many times better than that tigress of a sister of yours?" I parted my lips. Just as I was about to speak, my older sister had already kicked Shinichi in the knee. The two were too busy trading barbs to hear my voice. Mother stood by, eyes full of amusement. It seemed everyone had forgotten Shinyenji was my fiancé, and today he was supposed to escort me to the flower viewing banquet. No one knew, actually. I had planned to ask Shinyenji at the banquet's winding stream. "I've been of age for 3 years now. When will you come to marry me in secret?" I had already checked. The 8th day of next month was an auspicious date. "Yenji, would you be willing?" But watching Shinichi tangle with my older sister, a sudden answer crystallized in my heart. I stood there for a long time, gazing at the old peach tree in the courtyard, its blossoms in full bloom. A breeze stirred, and petals swayed down, tumbling into the muddy earth pitifully. Unnoticed 07. A few days later, the palace was to host a flower viewing banquet. I overheard the maids whispering in the courtyard. 2 flower viewing banquets in 3 months. This is a first this year. Didn't a prince return to the capital recently? I heard this palace banquet is for his formal selection of a consort. Suddenly, I remembered young master. Though the rumored 3rd prince was of noble birth, young master was also quite fine. My restless heart swayed like the flower branches outside the window at the palace banquet. My older sister, heeding mother's advice, dressed with exceptional care when she spotted young master from afar. Her expression faltered. "Is that the young master Xiao who handed me the flowers that day?" I followed her gaze. It was indeed Xiao Romeo. Unlike before, he wore a dark robe embroidered with gold, surrounded by many noble scions. How was he so different from before? Was he always this handsome? My sister's voice was low, almost dazed hearing this. I clenched my handkerchief. What if my sister also set her sights on young Master Xiao? Mother and elder brother would surely support her. So at the banquet, when my sister accidentally fell into the water, my hands moved faster than my heart without thinking. I pushed Shinji beside me. Yinji, don't just stand there quickly. Carry sister up. Meeting shiny Yinji's stunned gaze, I fought back the heat rising in my cheeks and whispered to him, I know you like sister. If you carry her up, you can marry her. I'll return the engagement to you. Can you tell sister for me? Let me have the handsome young master Shao. Okay. 08 Shiny seemed not to have processed it. He stared at me for a long time, as if suddenly struck by a blow, staggering back a step. Z, he said softly, you're speaking in anger, right? My sister splashed drew the crowd's attention. The surroundings grew noisier. No, I'm not. I shook my head gently, looking earnestly into his eyes. Yinji, I truly hope it's you who saved sister from the water in the lotus pond. My sister struggled for a long time until her strength gave out. Just before her head sank beneath the surface, she cried out, Saw, Shiny. Shiny Yinji whirled around before diving into the pond. He looked into my eyes again as if trying to dig something out from the depths. After a long pause, he closed his eyes. Z, believe it or not, I never intended anything with your sister. Forget it. If you're sulking, that's fine. I promise this is the last time. From now on, I'll prove my feelings through actions. The last two words were spoken so softly, as if afraid to disturb something. Then Shinichi hurriedly jumped into the lotus pond at the palace banquet. Under everyone's gaze, my sister coughed and choked in Shinichi's arms. Her usually radiant face drained of color, showing vulnerability for the first time. The two clung tightly together, clothes soaked, skin pressed close. Framed by the garden's spring splendor, they seemed inseparable throughout the rear garden. Noble science and ladies whispered, their gazes darting between the pair and me under those stares. My heart finally settled completely. 09 Shiny she and my sister left the banquet in haste. I lingered much longer, not returning to the manor until the gathering dispersed. Mother and elder brother sat in the main hall. My sister was at the side, eyes rimmed red, her complexion unusually pale. Elder brother spoke first. See about today's banquet incident. He paused as if finding it difficult. Finally, he continued, your sister was rescued by the young heir in full view of everyone. It will be hard for her to find a match now. Shio is different from you. She went missing as a child and has little reputation. With this fall into the water, the only way is for Shiny Yinji to marry her. Having said this, elder brother averted his gaze as if unable to look at me, but mother had already spoken urgently. Just let your sister have this one time. Besides, this engagement was originally hers. The room fell silent. I had already prepared myself for this. I couldn't quite tell if I was sad or relieved. Without another word, I nodded in compliance. Z will follow mother and brother's arrangements. My brother froze for a moment, staring at me for a long time, his lips parting. It seemed he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent before leaving. I asked my brother, does young Master Sean know about this? My brother's expression was calm. He'll find out when the time comes. So they were planning to keep it from Shinji. I didn't ask further. I turned and walked away. It should have been a perfect outcome for everyone. But behind me, my elder sister suddenly called out, rising quickly and striding over before I could react. My sister, as if she had been holding back for a long time, slapped me hard across the face. When Z, stop pretending. I was the one who fell into the water today. I was the one who lost all face and became a laughingstock. Who are you putting on this wronged act for? Her face was twisted with fury, her eyes brimming with tears that she stubbornly refused to let fall. My elder sister stared at me intently, as if to emphasize her point. She spoke slowly, word by word. Do you think I care about that engagement? I'm not like you, that Marquis heir you treasure so much. I've never thought much of him. When Z, remember this. I didn't take him from you today. I've never owed you anything. My brother's face changed abruptly. He shot to his feet. Shishu. I closed my eyes, then quickly walked away, leaving the chaos behind me. 10. Leaving my mother's courtyard, I ran into my father, who had just returned from court in a hurry. His expression was complicated for the first time. He didn't ask about my elder sister first. Instead, he said, "Z, did the third prince choose you at the flower viewing banquet?" I nodded slightly. Father is indeed well informed. After Shiny Yenji and my elder sister had hastily left the banquet, only then did I learn that Xiao Rangyu, who had claimed to have just returned to the capital, was actually the rumored third prince in front of everyone. He looked at me with a smile, his voice light. "Miss, do you remember? You still owe me an answer." He paused, his face suddenly showing a hint of shyness, but the gaze he fixed on me burned with intensity. "Miss Sai, there are many eyes here. I don't mean to pressure you. I just want you to know that today's flower viewing banquet, the selection of a consort, was actually arranged for only one person. I've only been waiting for that one person's answer." At that moment, I hesitated, twisting my handkerchief in my fingers. I thought to myself, the third prince's temperament seemed a bit different from what I had imagined. My father cut off my train of thought abruptly. "Since you've decided, what about the Marquis's heir? Mother and brother have already decided to return the engagement to my elder sister." My father looked at me. "Does the heir know if he doesn't?" I interrupted him. "Father, the heir may not know now, but on the night of the wedding, he'll naturally find out." My father's gaze fell on my re-ined, swollen cheek. He was silent for a long time, then said, "Z, I know you have resentment in your heart, but if you do this and our family offends the Marquis's heir..." I paused in my movements. Resentment in my heart. So all these years, Father had known that I would harbor resentment meeting my father's gaze. I finally showed my first smile of the day. "Father," I said softly, "would you rather offend the Marquis, heir or the third prince's consort?" 11. As soon as Xiao Romi returned to the palace, he requested an imperial decree. I privately asked him if he could delay things for a while, not to announce it yet. Though puzzled, he agreed. The wedding preparations proceeded at a leisurely pace. There was also happy news in the manor. Lately, my elder sister's wedding to Shiniji. Shiniji still didn't know his betrothed had been swapped. These days, he had sent me many letters, but those letters along with the silk and jewelry he had delivered were all sent by my mother to my elder sister's courtyard a few days later. I wanted to go to the silk shop to buy some items and I happened to run into Shiny. He was extravagantly selecting bolts of silk followed by a crowd of servants carrying bulging packages. When he saw me, Shin Yinji froze for a moment seeing me choosing fabric. He seemed to think of something and his face flushed slightly. He almost dropped the folding fan in his hand. Shi stepped back as he approached. "Young Master Sean, this is not proper." Shiny was stunned for a moment, then laughed again. He snapped his folding fan shut, resting it against his chin, his peach blossom eyes full of mirth. "Z is right. The wedding date is set. The worst thing is to have joy clash. With joy, you and I shouldn't be too close." I lowered my eyes and didn't answer. Shinichi pressed a wooden box into my hands. I opened it and glanced inside. It was a velvet flower hairpin shaped like a jasmine. He was silent for a long time before speaking. I went back and thought about it for a long time. "I understand what you're angry about now. Isn't it just a filigree velvet flower hairpin? I made one for you myself to make up for it in the future." "In the future, whatever kind of hairpin you want, I can find it for you. I won't share it with your elder sister anymore. Please don't be angry." "Okay." The jasmine hairpin was a bit crude in craftsmanship. The heir's hands were covered in cuts and bruises. But Shiniji didn't care at all. He just looked at me with a curved smile. A strange bittersweet ache stirred in my chest suddenly. I remembered when we were young. Father was always busy with court affairs. Mother always seemed to look through me as if seeing someone else. And my brother never spoke up for me. Only Shiniji was by my side. He was so handsome and proud, always smiling, as if there was nothing in the world that could make him sad or afraid. I had thought he belonged only to me. But he didn't. Seeing me silently accept the wooden box, A light lit up in his eyes and his expression completely relaxed like the countless times he had made me cry only to coax me back to smiles. Shiny Yanji was brimming with smug delight. He raised a hand to ruffle my hair, then pulled it back with an exaggerated show of restraint. My grandfather at home is gravely ill. I need to leave the capital to visit him. I'm leaving today and I should be back in time for the wedding in 3 days. Wait for me. I watched his retreating figure for a long time. Then I tossed the hairpin to the maid accompanying me. It's yours. 12. Perhaps it was because Shiny Yanji had stirred up old memories. After returning to the manor, I went to my brother's courtyard to make sure everything was set for 3 days from now. When I reached the door, I heard my brother's voice coming from inside. Why must you go this far? The engagement was originally with the eldest miss, when now it's merely returning what was always hers. My elder sister's voice was cold. I don't want to be accused of stealing my younger sister's marriage. Everyone knows that our little sister has adored the heir since childhood. I can't bear to tear them apart. Besides, that day, didn't mother and brother also feel they had wronged her? Since that's the case, it's better for me to be the one to speak first, so I won't be blamed by you all later. My brother's voice was startled and anxious. Who said we blame you? Don't overthink this. Shiny sends letters every single day, each one addressed to her. He never once mentioned my name. If I were to marry into the marquee household in She's place, how could I know if this would forge a bond or create an enemy? Would Shinji seek revenge against me? How laughable. I once considered him a friend I could confide in. Now that I've fallen to this state, all he can see is his delicate, fragile fiancé. If that's the case, then let Shinji take her as a concubine as well. She likes the heir so much. I'm sure she'd be willing to be a secondary wife. My brother was silent for a long time. Father and mother won't agree. My elder sister laughed. Then that depends on you, brother. The other side offered no further rebuttal. A wind rose beneath the eaves, sweeping through and chilling me from head to toe. I curled the corner of my mouth, then turned and walked away. The next day at the royal polo match, just as my brother was about to claim victory, an opponent struck his knee with a mallet. His startled horse bolted, and my brother was thrown to the ground, breaking his shin. 13. The 8th day of the month was a rare, brilliant, sunny day. The sky was clear and cloudless, the wind gentle and warm. Drums and gongs echoed along the streets. Copper coins and red dates scattered everywhere, turning the ground a vibrant red. The bridal sedan chair entered the prince's mansion with great fanfare. Night fell. Only the wedding candles burned quietly. When the red veil was lifted, my face flushed first. Xiaoyu smiled. Is she's husband handsome? My face grew even hotter. I stammered for a long time before murmuring, handsome, as if on purpose. He leaned in closer. His lips almost touched my neck. His breath so hot it made my skin rein. Then does my wife like me? What a tease. Panicking, I tried to change the subject and blurted out, by the way, why did you choose me? Xiao Rangu was taken aback. He grew serious, thought for a moment, and said, when I was young, the emperor favored Imperial consort Ion the most. Her 5th prince overshadowed both my elder brother and me. One day, the 5th prince accused me of using witchcraft to curse him. My mother and elder brother chose not to speak up for me, to protect themselves. His gaze fell lightly on me, then he smiled softly, like a gentle breeze brushing across his face. I was very young back then. All I could do was cry. But that day at the flower viewing banquet, I saw your fiancé and elder sister bullying you. Your eyes were red, yet you kept your head down and never let a tear fall. At that moment, I thought, what a brave girl. I blinked, stared at him for a long time, so long that he grew stiff with embarrassment. What? What is it? Did I sound too sentimental? I finally let out a laugh quietly. I said, no, I was just thinking. My husband makes my heart ache. Xiao Romi's eyes softened. My wife too. He looked into my eyes with deep, profound care. No one will ever bully you again. My heart stirred once, twice, then again finally. I nodded. I believe you. We smiled at each other. 14. On the road back. Shinichi rode his horse at full speed. The spring water by the shore shimmered with a green glow, reflecting the drifting clouds and sunlight, just like Shinichi's restless heart at his maternal grandfather's house. He had run into an old schoolmate. The schoolmate told him many things about the capital. Only then did Shiny realize that in just 2 short days away from the capital, so much had already happened. His schoolmate spoke in a low voice. Do you know the eldest young master of the Wen family was struck off his horse by a mallet during the polo match? I heard blood spilled everywhere and he fainted. On the spot. The family doctor said he broke his left leg and might be left with a limp in the future. Truly a pity. Shiny was deeply shaken when she hung. Whether as the brother of his fiancé or as a close friend he grew up with, they shared a deep bond as a child. She would secretly climb over the back wall of the Wen residence to find the Z he longed for to keep her company, bring her little trinkets, and make sure she didn't stay gloomy all day when Xiang had covered for him many times. So later, when he asked him to look after the long-lost Joe, when Xiang had readily agreed, he prided himself on doing better than anyone else. Even if sometimes he went too far and hurt Z's feelings. Shinichi wasn't without guilt, but he was certain that no matter how sad Z was, she wouldn't blame him or her brother. After all, weren't they the closest people to her in this world? Surely, once Z understood, she would forgive them now. With when she hangs leg broken, Z must be crying her eyes out at home for some reason. Shiny thought back to his schoolmates' words. The one who struck when she hung off his horse was the 3rd young master of the Wen family. I heard it was deliberate. Sure. Let me tell you quietly. That 3rd young master's cousin has admired when she hung for a long time. She somehow found out that the winner of this royal polo match could petition the emperor for the hand of any noble lady he desired. Afraid that when she hung would marry someone else, she asked her cousin to stop him from winning the palace. Don't even mention it. After this incident, the emperor flew into a rage. Only then did they discover how rampant the Wen family had become. An investigation uncovered many things. Now, Imperial consort has fallen out of favor, and even the once glorious 5th prince. From now on, the capital is likely to see a major upheaval. Shinichi shook his head. He cast aside the faint unease in his heart. Forget it. What did it have to do with him? He only wanted to rush back to the capital to make it in time for his grand wedding with Shi. He had already made Z wait far too long. She remembered that day by the lotus pond, Shi's pale snow-white face. And then the day he left the capital, how she held the small wooden box and quietly looked back at him. A sudden rush of emotions flooded through her, bitter and sour. It's fine. As long as I can marry E and bring her home, everything can still be salvaged. I have a whole lifetime to coax her to make sure that smile never fades from Z's face. He arrived in the capital, travel-worn and weary as he changed into his wedding robes. The attendant, sharp-eyed and quick-tongued, remarked with a clever grin. They say, when a match is truly made in heaven, even the heavens themselves lend a hand on the wedding day, granting perfect weather. A maidservant nearby chimed in. Isn't that the truth? The streets are buzzing. I heard 2 weddings were held today. Truly, it must be a rare and auspicious day. Shinichi's heart pounded faster and faster. The wedding night in the bridal chamber. The girl he had dreamed of day and night, dressed in red bridal robes, sat before him. Shinichi swallowed hard. He lifted the red veil. 3 days later. On the day of returning home, Xiao Rang Yu helped me down from the carriage. Waiting in front of the mansion was none other than Xin Yanji. He hadn't even changed out of his wedding robes. They were wrinkled and worn, hanging on him in unprecedented disarray. He had probably been sleepless for 3 straight days. Forgetting all propriety, he stared intently at Xiao Rong, his voice trembling with confusion. Why? Why did you marry him? Why? Why did I have to marry your elder sister? She, the noble, elegant, and charming young master had never looked so wretched. I thought for a moment, then said, Yanji, do you still remember my birthday last year? He froze. That day, my brother sent me 2 hairpins, both in colors I detest. Even then, I knew he didn't truly want to give me a birthday gift. But when even you told me to give both hairpins to my elder sister, I realized there was no one standing by my side. Later, you caught me crying in secret and said I was overly sensitive and narrow-minded. You said that after we married, Chishu would also be my elder sister, and I would have to tolerate much more. Shiniji said urgently, but I've already realized my mistake. I made you a green hairpin with my own hands, the color you love, and I won't ever make you give in to your elder sister again. I looked at him for a long time. Then I said softly, "It's too late, Brother Yinji. Back then, you told me to change. So, I learned to adapt to your closeness with my elder sister. But by the time I came to my senses, I had already stopped liking you. Perhaps the human heart is that fickle. Or maybe protecting oneself from harm is simply human nature. Everything else comes second in an instant." All the color drained from Shiniji's face. He looked as if he might collapse. Xiaorong gently pulled me into his embrace. "The weather is turning cold. Young master, please return." He smiled. "Your new wife is still waiting for you at home." 16. After 3 days away, the mansion was eerily quiet. Father was, as usual, nowhere to be seen. Mother had lost a lot of weight, her eyes red and swollen. She instructed me to go visit my brother. I declined Xiaorong's company, but when I reached my brother's bedside, I didn't know what to say. We sat in silence for a long time. Z, my brother, looked up, his expression calm. He even forced a faint, strange smile. "I remember your birthday is coming up again." I nodded. He asked, "What gift do you want this year?" I thought about it, then shook my head. Z doesn't have a gift she wants from her brother. My brother paused. We looked at each other in silence for a long time, and I bowed to take my leave, but his voice suddenly came from behind me. Z? His voice was very soft. "Brother remembers when San's cousin. You were close with her, weren't you?" I turned my head to look at him. After a moment, I smiled apologetically. Brother actually remembers that. My brother squeezed his eyes shut tightly. When he opened them again, his voice trembled. "When did it happen, Z? How did you become like this? Is it because of your elder sister?" I smiled. "That's a question you should ask yourself. Brother, why did you want to send me to the young master as a concubine? I am your sister, too. After favoring her for so many years, wasn't that enough? Just how low do you want to drag me?" My brother's head shot up that day. "You were outside. You heard everything. Z? I didn't mean it. I was just trying to comfort your elder sister. How could I actually send you to be a concubine?" 17. Hearing this, I was stunned for a long time. A sudden wave of sadness washed over me. The Imperial physician said that if your leg is treated with care, there's still a good chance of a full recovery. Brother Z didn't want it to come to this either. But you have only yourself to blame for being so untrustworthy. With that, I turned and walked away. From the courtyard came my brother's voice, a man who usually never showed his emotions, now choked with tears. Z brother was wrong. Many things happened after that. I heard my brother's leg was treated for a long time. And thankfully, he didn't end up crippled, but it was as if he had suffered a terrible blow, and he never recovered from the slump. I heard that after Shin-Yinji married my elder sister, he threatened to divorce her, even on pain of death, but he never succeeded. So, he spent his days drowning in wine in taverns, living a life of drunken stupor. My elder sister, her pride wounded, argued with him many times. The last time, she couldn't take it anymore and slapped him in public. To everyone's surprise, Shinichi hit her back, but none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Unbeknownst to me, the time of the Lower Prime Festival had arrived. The capital's main street was ablaze with lanterns, bright as daylight, bustling with excitement. Xiaoyu had been appointed crown prince for over 3 months, and I had been busy alongside him. Finally, I managed to snatch a moment to leave the palace in the crowded lively marketplace. A group of people were gathered around guessing lantern riddles. Seeing my obvious curiosity, Xiao Rome suddenly hoisted me onto his shoulder. My view shot upward and I was so startled my eyes welled up with tears. Xiao Rome, you put me down this instant in front of all these people. Have you no decency? Xiao Rome, you just laughed. Now that you're the crown princess, why are you still so quick to tears? Besides, what's wrong with a husband holding his own wife? Didn't you want to see the lantern riddles? If there's anything else that catches your eye, I'll buy it. All for you amidst the crowd and the lights. I suddenly spotted at a stall on the street corner a lifelike hairpin carved in the shape of a narcissus flower. I was reminded of someone's hand reaching out through the rain. As I stared, a smile crept across my face. Husband, I want that hairpin. All right, comma. Chow yes side story. We were made for each other. The first time I met Wenzi, I didn't even see her face clearly. I only watched a grand drama unfold from afar. I mistook her for the child I once was. And out of convenience, I spoke a single word on her behalf. When my gaze met those misty eyes, I froze for a long moment. So out of habit, I dug out the narcissus flower my aunt had pressed into my palm and carved her name onto it stroke by stroke. Truth be told, I never intended to take a wife. I had only just returned to the capital, and there were far too many things I needed to do. But that day, even the rain that drenched me for hours couldn't quench the inexplicable heat rising in my head. I handed the flower to Wenzi after I got home. I mulled it over and decided it was no big deal. On the day of the flower viewing banquet, I didn't want to draw attention. So, I borrowed a guard's plain robes. Anyone could tell I was from a humble background. A noble lady like Wenzi probably wouldn't want anything to do with me. But the second time I saw her, I happened to catch her goading her fiancé into jumping into the water to save her elder sister. I couldn't help but laugh. And in that moment, I realized something. Perhaps we were the same kind of creature. So once again, my head went hot. I stepped forward in front of everyone and demanded her answer from that day. I said I wasn't forcing her, but I gave her no way out. Whether she had her own plans or not, whether she knew who I was or not, agreeing to me was her best option. When I saw her subtly clench her handkerchief, I smiled to myself. She had no choice but to say yes. I was confident that I was more worthy of her than that so-called Erno. Only I was worthy of her. I could fulfill her wishes. I could clear every obstacle from her path. But even as I ran through all those reasons in my head, while I waited for her answer, my heart still pounded like a war drum the moment she nodded. I let out a long, slow breath after that. We clicked perfectly like two pieces of a puzzle. Within 3 days, the eldest one brother had broken his leg and could no longer favor when Shio consort Ion and the fifth prince both lost the emperor's favor. I was satisfied, but there was one thing I shouldn't have dwelled on. Something that always sat heavy in my chest, like the branches of a willow tree. It kept reaching out to scratch me from time to time until our wedding day. For the first time, I tried to seduce her, just like in the storybooks I'd read. When I saw Wenzi's ears turn red as she glanced at me, I thought to myself, well, at least I didn't lose completely beyond our positions and our interests. You're at least a little satisfied with me as a person, aren't you, Z? That night, I gave it my all. As for that fool, Qin Yanji, one false rumor from me was enough to trick him into moving his entire family out of the capital. He didn't even stop to think at his maternal grandfather's age. Getting sick was perfectly normal. By the time he came back, when she would have long forgotten he ever existed on the day of her homecoming visit, Shiny looked like he'd gone mad. Even I felt a flicker of pity watching him. The truth is C had only abandoned him at first, but after she met me, she forgot him entirely. How pitiful, young Master Shin, but isn't that just how life works? The people and things that matter only come around once. If you miss your chance, it's over. I felt sorry for him, sure, but I couldn't help sneaking a glance at Z's expression. Thankfully, she didn't soften after that. None of them had a good ending. Shiny Yenji lost the one he loved and drowned himself in drink every day. Though the eldest, when brother's leg healed, his heart seemed never to recover. One day, I went to see when she hung. He was silent for a long time before he spoke. On Zai's birthday that year, I asked them what kind of hairpin they wanted. Shishu wrote back saying she liked pink. So I sent 2 pink ones. But I only found out later that Z had also replied. She said she wanted a green one. It's just that the letter had an accident. It was damaged on the way. I didn't know. As he spoke, a glimmer of hope flickered in his eyes as if he'd found a way out. I didn't mean to neglect her back then. Could you tell she for me? I thought for a moment, then said, you only received 1 letter. It's true, but you never asked again afterward, did you? When she froze, that faint glimmer of light died out in an instant. In the end, I never told Z about it when they were already at a point where they couldn't even face each other. What was the point? I heard that when Shou's life had turned out even worse, she was probably doomed to spend the rest of her days as a widow in all but name. But what did that have to do with us? Well, it looks like Z and I have become the villains. Let us, this pair of villains, go and plague someone else together. There's still a long road ahead. The end. Side story. When Shin Yinji heard that when she had married into the 3rd prince's household, he was in the stables brushing a new chestnut horse. The servant stumbled in, his lips trembling for ages before he could get the words out. Young master, the 2nd miss of the Wen family has married. She married the 3rd prince. The brush slipped from his hand and hit the blue bricks, splashing up a few specks of mud. He thought he'd misheard. Wasn't the wedding set for 3 days from now between her and me? His voice was flat, as if he hadn't yet grasped the weight of those words. The servant didn't dare lift his head, only burying it lower. I heard it was a marriage decree from the palace. Master, when accepted the edict himself, Shinji stood in the stable, the chestnut horse beside him, snorting uneasily. He looked down at his sleeve, stained with horsehair and dust, and suddenly remembered something before he left the capital. He had promised her he'd return in 3 days to marry her. The jasmine hairpin he had made with his own hands was still in her hand. She said she'd accepted it. She accepted it, but she married someone else. Who approved this? He asked. The servant didn't dare answer. I ask you who approved this. His voice wasn't loud, but it hit like a stone dropped into a deep well, startling the horses into stepping back half a pace. The servant dropped to his knees with a thud. Young master. It was Master Wen who agreed. Madam Wen and the eldest young master both nodded. The 3rd prince requested the decree. The emperor approved it. The imperial edict has been issued. The whole capital knows. The rest of his words were drowned out by the sound of hooves. Shin Yinji swung onto the horse, the reins cutting a red line into his palm. He didn't know where he was going. He just couldn't stop. The chestnut horse burst out of the stable, out of the Marquis' estate, and charged down the main street. The wind stung his eyes, making them ache, but only one thought raced through his mind. Why asterisk? She had accepted the hairpin. She had smiled. She had never said number 02. He dismounted at the gates of the Wen residence. The gatekeeper recognized him but dared not let him in. He stood before those vermilion-painted doors for an entire hour until dusk fell and the shadows deepened before when Xiang finally emerged, supported by a servant. When Hang's leg was still injured, he leaned on a dark wooden cane, his face pale, yet beneath his eyes lay a weariness that was hard to define. A quiet, bone-deep exhaustion. What are you doing here? When Xiang asked, Shiny Yinji stared at him, his throat feeling as though it were clogged with gravel. Why? When Hung lowered his head, the veins on the back of his hand bulged faintly. He was silent for a long time before he finally said, it was her own decision. Her own decision. Shiny let out a laugh, a sound that felt desolate in the fading light. She's just a girl from the inner chambers. What decisions could she possibly make? When Hung raised his eyes, there was something in his gaze that Shin Yinji couldn't decipher. Yinji, do you truly believe she couldn't have a decision of her own? Shiny Yinji was struck, speechless by the question. He suddenly recalled a moment from many years ago. In the back courtyard of the Wen residence, a young girl in a pale yellow jacket was crouched by the wall, carefully bandaging a wounded sparrow. She worked with meticulous care, applying medicine even to the tiny scratches on its leg. When he walked over, she looked up at him, Her eyes were so bright, so impossibly bright that he couldn't look away. "It can't fly anymore," she said. "I'm going to keep it." "A sparrow can't be kept alive," he said, crouching down. He reached out to touch the bird, but she gently moved it away. "I'll still try. What if it lives?" That sparrow did live. It spent over half a year in the Wen family's back courtyard, and the following spring, it flew away. When Z stood under the eaves, tilting her head back to watch it fly farther and farther into the distance, she didn't cry. She simply said, "It flew away. That's good, too." Back then, Shinji thought she was soft-hearted, easy to please. A hairpin, a piece of pastry, a kind word. That was all it took to make her smile again. He had grown used to placating her with these small gestures because she never held a grudge. She was like that sparrow let go with a gentle hand and she would fly away, and he always assumed she would come back. 03 On the day of the grand wedding, Shinji did not attend the ceremony. He locked himself in his study, taking the half-finished wooden hairpin from his desk and carving it into dust one stroke at a time. It was meant to be a belated birthday gift for her. Green, her favorite color. Later, he pieced together the events of those days from bits and pieces of gossip among his colleagues. How Wen-zi had replied to that family letter, saying she liked green. How she had secretly arranged for someone to smuggle that note bearing the word green out of the mansion. The messenger said that the second young lady had long known that no one would ever read her reply. She just wanted to say it out loud. Once she said it, she could find peace. She no longer wanted to wait for a green hairpin that would never come. That jasmine hairpin, she had accepted it. Not because she had forgiven him, but because she had decided to let go. Shinji sat in his study for an entire night. When dawn broke, he swept the pile of wood dust into a brazier and set it on fire. As the ashes rose, he closed his eyes and suddenly remembered the last time she smiled at him across a long crowded space. She had curved the corners of her mouth just slightly. That smile was so light, like a petal landing on his shoulder, so fragile it would shatter at the slightest touch. He shouldn't have made her wait so long. 04 After Wen Shishu moved into the household, Shinji rarely returned to the main courtyard. He used work as an excuse, sleeping in his study, occasionally drinking at taverns, and stumbling home in the dead of night. Wen Shishu waited for him at first, but eventually she stopped. They became strangers living under the same roof. Polite, no arguments, no fights, but never looking at each other. One night, he came home drunk, tripped on the ver, and hit his forehead on the stone steps, drawing blood. When Xiao heard the commotion, and came out to look, she stood in silence for a moment, then called for a servant to fetch a doctor. She stood under the eaves wearing an old nightgown, her hair casually pinned up, her gaze as calm as stagnant water. "Aren't you going to ask if it hurts?" he said, emboldened by the drink. When Xiao glanced at him, her tone flat. "What would be the point? You're not going to live your life properly anyway." He suddenly remembered many years ago when Z standing under the same eaves waiting for him to come home. She had waited until her eyes were red, yet she still smiled and said, "You're back. That's all that matters." Back then he had thought she was too clingy, that she bothered him with trivial nonsense. Now no one was waiting for him anymore. 05 2 more years passed. The political landscape in the court shifted dramatically. Consort Ion fell out of favor. The fifth prince was demoted, and the third prince's influence grew stronger by the day. On the day when Z was named crown princess, Xinyan she drank alone at a tavern in the western part of the city from morning till night. Half drunk, half sober, he overheard a conversation at the next table. "The crown princess's family is the Wen family, right? I heard that second young lady was almost married to the heir of the marquis's mansion. But somehow the third prince took a liking to her. It was more than just a liking. At that flower viewing banquet, the third prince publicly gave her a narcissus flower, and they say the stem was engraved with his name. You should have seen the scene. So many noble ladies were green with envy. And the heir of the marquis's mansion. I heard he later married the eldest Wen daughter. Strange though. The heir treats her coldly, but is always asking about the second young lady. Someone saw him buying hairpins on Chang'an Street, picking out only the green ones. Oh, so he still hasn't let go. Shiny Yinji set down his cup, his face expressionless, and got up to pay the bill. As he stepped out of the tavern, the evening wind hit him full in the face, clearing most of the drunken haze. The long street was bustling with people. He stood at the corner, suddenly unsure of where to go. He remembered many years ago when Z standing at that same street corner, waiting for him. He had been half an hour late. She had already finished an entire stick of candied hawthorns, leaving only a bare bamboo skewer in her hand. When she saw him, she shoved the skew into his hand and laughed. Carefree and innocent. I saved this for you. Eat it quickly. He looked down at the empty skew in his hand, and somehow his eyes stung. 06. On the day of the Crown Princess's investiture ceremony, Shiny Enji stood among the ranks of officials watching. When see from afar, she was dressed in ceremonial robes, wearing a phoenix crown, walking step by step across the crimson steps. Her posture was upright, her gaze straight ahead, never wavering. Xiao Romeu walked beside her, tilting his head slightly, whispering something in a low voice. She turned her face toward him, and the corner of her mouth curved into a smile. That smile was different from before. It no longer carried that cautiousness, that anxious fear of being left behind. She was truly at ease now. Shin Yinji lowered his head, staring at his empty palm. He suddenly remembered a time long ago in the back courtyard of the Wen residence. When she crouched by the wall, bandaging a sparrow's wound, he crouched down, wanting to touch the bird, but she gently pulled away. She had said, I still have to take care of it. What if it lives? He hadn't taken care of her. He treated her like a sparrow caged, thinking she would always wait for him to return and feed her. But she wasn't a sparrow. She was a wild goose. Geese cannot be kept. On the day she flew away, he didn't chase after her. By the time he thought to pursue, it was already too late. 07. Many more years passed. Shiny resigned from his noble title and bought a small courtyard on the outskirts of the city. Beneath the courtyard wall, he planted a peach tree. When spring came, it bloomed with a canopy of pink and white flowers. He sat beneath the tree, drinking tea. Petals fell into his cup, but he didn't brush them away. He just drank them down mouthful by mouthful. One day, passing by the Wen residence, he saw the crown prince's carriage stopped at the gate. Xiao Romeu helped Wenzi into the carriage. She turned her head, and whether she saw him or not, she paused for a single breath, then boarded the carriage. The carriage drove off into the distance. Shinji stood at the mouth of the alley, looking down at his own hands. The callus on his tiger's mouth was still there. A mark left from carving that jasmine hairpin. All those years ago, over time, he had made many more sand hairpins, but not a single one had ever been given away. They were all stored in an old wooden box, buried at the very bottom of his study once. When Shi Hung came to visit him in the courtyard, the two sat facing each other drinking tea and neither brought up the old matters. As he was leaving, when Shi Hang suddenly said, that letter back then, it really was lost. Shiny's hand pouring tea froze for a moment. The reply she wrote to you when Shi Hang's voice was very flat. I never received it. The letter was lost along the way. I didn't deliberately keep it from you. Shiny Yenji sat down the teapot, looking down at the tea leaves floating and sinking in his cup. After a long silence, he finally said, I know he did know. He just knew far too late. Those missed connections, those twists of fate in the end, it was all because he hadn't cared enough. If he had just asked one more question back then, if he had just read one more reply, if he hadn't given both pink hairpins to Wenxiu, but there was no such thing as if. 08. That early autumn, the peach tree Shiny Yenji had planted beneath the courtyard wall suddenly died. He had someone come to look at it, and they said the roots had rotted. It couldn't be saved. He had the tree dug up, and in that same pit, he planted a crab-apple tree. The next spring, the crab-apple bloomed beautifully. Pink and white petals blanketed the entire courtyard. He sat beneath the tree, flipping through an old book. A yellow piece of paper suddenly slipped out from between the pages. He unfolded it, and on it was Wenxu's crooked childhood handwriting. Brother Yinji brought me a packet of candy today. It was very sweet. I couldn't bear to finish it all, so I left half for sister. Sister said it wasn't sweet. She's lying. It was clearly very sweet. Shiny stared at that piece of paper. For who knows how long, the setting sun stretched his shadow, long and thin across the ground. Slowly he folded the paper, placed it back into the book, and closed the pages outside the window. The crab-apple blossoms were falling. One petal landed on his shoulder. He didn't brush it away. He just let it stay there like an answer that had been delayed far too long. One that was never sent. That book was never opened again. But that page remained. The one that said the candy was sweet. The story is now complete. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and support me.